let's do a battle report. This is our first one that we've ever done.
So forgive us if we look like idiots.
Yeah, this is a learning curve for us too. We're doing this mainly for our group here in Rexford, but we figured we'd give everybody a shout out and we'll put it up on YouTube. We're going to be playing a 2,000 point battle. I'm going to be playing Undead, the standard one, not the Egyptian flavor.
Mine are just elves. They're crossovers from high elves.
Yes, refugees from the Sundering. We're going to be playing one of the scenarios from the upcoming tournament that we're doing here in October, called the Refugees of the Old World. If you can't get the play on words there, then you're too young. No, it means you just didn't play Warhammer, and that's fine. Either way you go with it, it's going to be a fun tournament. We hope to see you out there. By the way, I'm Ben. This is Dave. And, well, let's just go over your list. What have you got?
Pretty basic, generic, I think. Of course, nobody else around here plays elf, so I don't know what other people play, but this is the way I play it.
Alright.
Generally, I have a couple troops of archers. I got 2 troops of archers with nothing but basic, standard stuff. They're just kind of whittle stuff down from at range. I got 2 troops of palace guard because I rather kind of like them. They're good for flank protectors, and if you get something stupid in the way that somebody forgets about, another 20 attacks or 30 attacks in the rear side comes in handy, especially with the crushing strength. I got tall spears. They just seem to work for me in a horde. I rather enjoy them. I got brew of strength because nobody ever expects a horde of stuff to actually kill something. They're usually more of an animal, where this kind of serves 2 purposes. My silver breeze, mainly a war machine, character killer. Yeah, I got 5 points on them just because I was a 1995, so needed to add in. Silver Wind Cavalry, I like to run them in 10s. I have recently changed this. I've added the whatever potion of the caterpillar. It gives them infantry or cavalry.
I can't leave home without
It's
it.
Pathfinder, if I remember right. It's Pathfinder or Strider.
Pathfinder.
Yeah. And then Horde of Drakon Riders, because you can't play an elf without some sort of
Your
dragon
crutch.
cavalry.
We call that a crutch.
No, he's just jealous because he can't beat them. And I upped them a little bit. I gave them the Chant of Hate, which gives them Vicious also, plus the elite that the army has. A bolt thrower just because it's an elf. You have to have some shooting.
Gotta have a giant.
And a mage, I've kind of decked him out. He's got pretty much everything. Probably spent way too many points on him for what I have, but he's kind of a jack of all trades. He can blast to kill things, or he can heal you and buff you. And I gave him Wind Blast just because I want Wind Blast to work so hard or bad that I haven't found a real use for it yet.
He wants to work, so he's going to make it work, whether it will or not.
Exactly. And then my Lord on a Dragon, which, again, when you're playing an elf army, you just kind of take it out. Or a dragon.
Fantasy. Everybody
wants a dragon. And dragons are fun in this game. So
that's true.
Where I couldn't play with them in 8th edition much, I make up for it now.
Where they were cannonball magnets. Well, cool. Well, I've got my undead here. I've got skeleton archers that are mostly just there to, guard a flank and occasionally shoot a pot shot at somebody, maybe cause a panic test here and there. I've got ghouls that are mainly just there to run around and really be annoying. They're just a regiment, so they're not very big. They're just there because they're the only thing we can run in my army. I've got my revenants. I've got a horde of them. They're kind of my other anvil. It's a weird list. This list I need to tweak badly because I've got 2 anvils. I've got 2 sponges. I've got my revenant horde, and then I've got my zombie legion, which they can't be moved. They're not going to do anything.
But it takes them forever to get rid of.
You can't shift them. I have my whites, which are my heavy hitters, my revenant cavalry, which are, my quasi-fast attacks that move around the side. I've got 2 Balefire catapults because you need at least 2 before you even start to see effectiveness from...
When you're hitting on 5s, you need to throw as many dice as possible.
It's true. I have another one that I need to put together so that I can include it in the list. So I have 3, and then you're pretty much guaranteed to at least hit once per turn. And when they hit, they're they do a lot of damage. And like him, I also have a dragon. I have a vampire on my undead dragon. A lot of fun.
They're just fun.
They are. They're a lot of fun. And flying and all that stuff that comes with it is just too much fun to pass up. Plus, it's another thing that isn't shambling, which
you need to...
I love shambling.
Competitively.
I love the shenanigans you can do with shambling, but man, just doing a vampire or just not having anything that can move at the double or do anything besides shuffle slowly towards the enemy, man, it's very hard. It is hard. I'm also pretty character heavy in that I have a Lich King and 2 Necromancers. My Lich King is kind of my heavy-hitting magic guy. He's there to buff. He's there to follow around all my guys.
He's got the high surge, right?
Yes, he has the high surge. He's got a huge surge. I gave him the Grimoire of Unspeakable Darkness.
Also, he's got bigger or better
he's
surge.
He's got a 16 surge, so he can shuffle people across the board. My other 2 Necromancers are kind of more there to back up my center of my army and give them buffs and shuffle them forward. They're okay surges, but they're not great. And that about rounds out my army.
You got Undead Rats in there?
I do not. I don't. See, the Life Leech, it's a nice little extra bonus, but I don't think it's worth spending extra points on, honestly. The only magic...
like 5 points, though?
Yeah, it's like 5 points to give them an extra Life Leech, or something like that. I can't remember.
It's 5 or 10, I think.
Yeah, I never take it because it's negligible to me about how much it does. When you're talking in units where their nerve is 28 and 24 for the ones that would actually use it, it's not that great. Yeah, as far as magical items go, though, the only thing I really have is on my 1 character. I have the Ensorcerer armor on my vampire.
Oh, I have that on my dragon, too.
So they'll be sitting there swinging at each other sissy fighting.
But we all know who will win, so it's okay.
I don't know about that. Yeah, we'll find out on the battlefield. But yeah, that's about it. We're doing a modified a loot scenario, if I remember right. It's either pillage or loot. I can't remember. It's the one with the 5 tokens. So I need to look that up before we get started exactly. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to roll off the table edges. The table's already set up. Once we are set up, we'll show you what our armies look like and kind of go from there, and then we'll start the game from that. Okay? So, here's the battlefield we've got going on here. We'll start with the Elves, the prissy little Elves. We'll start here. What's your unit?
Silver. Oh, sorry. I all started. That is Stormwind Cavalry. Regiment Stormwind. Palace Guard.
Palace Guard.
Tall Spears with the mage behind to support. And another Palace Guard. That is Silver Breeze Cavalry. That's my Drakon Riders. They're supposed to fly. I forgot my center model of the dragon that I usually use. So we're using a Hydra. Dragon. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, pretty much.
Archers, bolt throwers, and more archers.
There you go. First we've got my ghouls here. Followed by my dragon, my vampire. You can see her sitting back there. She kind of has a hard time seeing, but she still kills all the same. You have my revenants here. Be careful or else I'm going to bump that objective. You've got my legion of zombies. These are my whites, my balefires, and my archers. And there's my revenant cavalry with the Lich King here behind. Okay, so the objectives are split up. As you can see, there's 5 of them. Well, you probably can't see the 5th one in the middle of the table because the tower's in the way. So here, we'll move over here. There's the 5th one. So there's 5 objectives. The way this works is the same as any other pillage. I always get loot and pillage mixed up, so it could be either of those. Basically, the objectives are non-movable, and you have to have a unit within 3 inches to claim them. Characters, i.e. the dragons, the liches, the wizards, the necromancers, and so on, they cannot claim them. They can contest them if there's an enemy there, but they cannot claim them. Also, if they are contested, each objective is worth 2 points on its own. However, If it's contested, the player with the unit that has the largest number of, or largest point-sized unit in the vicinity is the one that gets 1 point for each objective. On top of that, for every 400 points of the enemy that you kill, you get a point. So there's a grand total of 15 points you can get out of this if you were able to table your opponent, which I don't think is going to happen. He thinks it might, but he's usually full of crap like that. So that's the scenario right now. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm starting to regret having that tower in the middle because it's blocking the action, but we'll give you different panoramics as the game progresses. So here we go. Yeah, we'll have to edit that out. There's the roll for first turn. Who gets first turn? Hey, look at that. It looks like I with a 5.
Okay, so at the beginning of my turn, I wanted to move my dragon forward so that it could actually get up and maybe take out some of those pesky little archers and or the war machine in the back there. But I wanted to use my breath weapon, and as Dave so helpfully pointed out, I couldn't use the breath weapon anyway, so I finished moving her at the double at that. Beyond that, I moved my zombies up to the middle so that they could sit on the objective. That was the whole idea behind that move, and it actually worked out really well in the end. They actually held out for most of the game, as you'll find out. I moved my whites up to hopefully support my Revenant Cavalry, and I moved my Revenant Cavalry up because I forgot that the Stormwind Cavalry had the Potion of the Caterpillar, and I thought that those trees might potentially hinder their charge, which it didn't. However, my Balefire Catapults made up for it by inflicting 6 wounds on the Revenant Cavalry, which turned out to be pretty pivotal in the next few turns, which you'll find out here in just a bit. I also just realized I called the Revenant Cavalry, or the ones that took the Balefire, that should be Stormwind Cavalry, and you'll see that's pretty much it for Undead turn 1.
End of Undead turn 1. We've advanced. The catapults actually did a pretty good number on the cavalry here on the side. I got my whites moving up there. Over here my zombies were able to surge up onto the objective pretty much, and now they're just, gonna sit there for pretty much the rest of the game. My revenants are still sitting back there, and my dragon is grinning wickedly at the whatchamacallit, bolt throwers, elves, yeah.
So, the elf turn begins, of course, with him charging his sneaky Stormwind right into my Revenant Cavalry. That's probably the last thing that really goes his way for the course of this, for the next about 4 turns for him. The other thing that he does on his right flank is he decides that he's going to shoot my dragon, which actually comes back to haunt him a little bit in the future, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. As you can see, he's moving up his left flank pretty heavily. He's set up his palace guard to be able to flank anything that charges his spearmen there, which is a really smart move and very tactically sound. It just doesn't go his way, as you'll see. It's a very interesting second round. Going back to his right flank with him deciding to shoot my dragon, that prevents his Drakon riders from moving in there, and he's setting him up so that he can charge them next turn if he so feels like it, or it gives him the option of being able to charge my zombies, which again is a tactically sound choice that he makes, except for the fact that it means that he didn't charge my dragon, which actually turns out to be the wrong choice in this situation. Shooting a bunch of 6+ armor, defense shots into my dragon won't really work too well, is what we come to find out. On top of that, just bad dice rolling altogether. As you can see, he's laying in there, and he only scores a handful of wounds on my dragon, which really isn't enough to really accomplish much of anything. As you can see, he's going through a lot of shooting here, and here's a prime example of sometimes even the best laid plans they don't quite work out. He had a lot of really good choices here. He set up a lot of good counter charges, and he got a lot of good things off. His Stormwind Cavalry, not the least of these, and taking full advantage of all the archery that he has. As Elves, they have some pretty decent shooting. It's not phenomenal, but it's pretty good as far as, you know, especially when compared to the Undead. Apart from the Balefire, there really isn't much else that they can really bring to bear. So he manages to pepper a few things into my zombies, which is an okay thing. He didn't really have any other targets, so that worked out well for him. His cavalry there, his fast cav in the middle, was the ones that shot my zombies, and they didn't really accomplish that much. Here comes the hand-to-hand combat with the Revenants. They do a significant amount of damage to them, but it's not enough to pop the unit, and that really comes back to bite him. He was really hoping that he could pull that off.
Okay, so at the end of turn 1, his cavalry charged mine. They inflicted 9 wounds as opposed to my 6 that my catapult did to his. Apart from that, everybody else just kind of shuffled forward with some hilariously lackluster shooting on my dragon. Oh boy, bad rolling. We're talking 4 units shooting at him. Grand total of clearing
40 shots.
40 shots and 3 wounds to show for it.
16, 15, plus the 2, yeah, 35, 40, yeah, 35, 40 shots.
Yeah. Oh, and they pincushioned 2 of my zombies, but, you know, there's always more where that came from.
And a lightning bolt your bolt.
Oh, that's right, and he lightning bolted my Balefire catapult. But yeah, that's turn 1. On to turn 2.
Okay, so probably the first thing that I did was I moved my zombies up so that they were standing literally on top of the objective. And the reason I did that is because zombies are really hard to shift, and I think I had 3 inches of leeway in between them and the token. After that, of course, I countercharged my Revenant Cavalry into the Stormwind Cavalry. And I thought about moving my whites up to see if I couldn't surge them into the side of the Stormwind Cavalry. But before we moved on from the movement phase, I thought better of it and I moved them back, just because I felt that it was just too risky to really accomplish that, and decided that the better choice would probably be to Bane chant my Revenant Cavalry with my Lich King. So that's what I eventually ended up doing, and it was a risky shot to be able to try and surge them in. I did position my Necromancer so that all of them could try to help surge them, and I probably could have made it, but I felt ultimately that they were in a better position where they were to begin with, and so I moved them back, and I decided to go with that. Apart from that, if you noticed in the back there, I did move my dragon up to assault a group of archers there in the very upper, my upper left flank, his right flank, and the hope there was that I would be able to devour the archers before, in that one turn. See, there I am taking the whites back there after I'd gone on there, but it was before we moved on from the movement phase, so we deemed that was legal. Go ahead and give us your feedback in the comments if you think that was the wrong thing to do. We're still learning what the best situation is, and we figure that as long as you're in the same phase, you can take back things that you did, so long as it's within the same phase. After that, you're stuck. We're kind of so-so on that. Anyway, going back to the dragon, we were back there. I was hoping that I could destroy his unit of archers, which would allow my dragon to reform so that she wasn't getting flanked by his dragon and potentially his Drakon riders. The shooting phase in this one was terrible. I don't think my Balefires did anything. They shot at the spearmen and didn't accomplish anything, and my bowmen never do anything. But in this situation, we went on to the hand-to-hand combat, and obviously my Revenants were able to take out the Stormwind Cavalry, which was a big deal. That really helped contribute to just his left flank buckling on him, and that was the first step down this pathway of destruction that ensues. In the back corner, my dragon was able to eat all of the archers. She was very full after that, and then she turned to face the coming onslaught that was going to hit her. and boy did it look ugly over there, but for some reason she was able to pull it out, mainly because, as you'll see in the next turn, because he decided to try and shoot her again instead of just charging her face to face. So that is pretty much the Undead turn 2, and it was a pretty big one too. So two really big things happened there. First was, as soon as it focuses there, my knights, my Revenant Cavalry, was able to take out his, what are they called again? Silver Breeze Cavalry? I thought that was those. Stormwind Cavalry, okay. And we're able to take out his Stormwind Cavalry, thankfully due to a lucky Bane chant, well, not so lucky, but a Bane chant from their
I would call
Lich
it more
King.
lucky Balefire shot.
Yeah, the Balefire shot is really what, you the MVP, you the real MVP right there, boy. And then the other one was, of course, over here with my dragon. He was able to rout those archers, and then, well, she was able to rout them and then turn and face the onslaught that's coming her way, I'm imagining. So that was the end of the Undead turn 2. Also, my zombies are now on top of the token, and they're pretty hard to shift. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so in this turn, the very first thing that he does is he charges my dragon with his, which is what he probably should have done to begin with. However, I understood his reasoning. Then he had a choice to make. He could either double charge my dragon with his Drakon Riders, or he could charge my Revenants with his Drakon Riders. However, if he charged my dragon, it would have given him a hindered charge, as he'd have been forced to land in the trees, whereas with my Revenants, I can understand his reasoning in deciding ultimately to charge them, which I think you're about to see right here, because he didn't have a hindered charge, and he could inflict quite a bit of damage and possibly take that very large unit out, which was threatening that his right flank pretty heavily. Apart from that, he moves his archers back. I wasn't quite sure of the reasoning behind that. I think it was so that my zombies couldn't charge them. But I think he forgot about the fact that I have Surge or something along those lines, and he didn't think about the fact that his Drakon Riders were now exposed in the flanks, or else he thought that he might be able to get a counter charge off later. I'm not sure. I'm not in his head. Apart from that, he moves up his left flank a little bit, just into the killing fields. It's about to get bloody over there, and he knows it, and he's getting ready for it, so he's bracing for it as much as he can. As far as shooting goes, he inflicts a wound or two on my Revenants, on my Revenant Cavalry, which is good in theory. He shoots a lightning bolt at him and he does a wound or two. Then he shoots my zombies yet again, just picking away at them. That's really the best way to deal with the zombies, besides charging a good portion of your army in there to take them out, which takes up a lot of time and opens up potential flank charges. Beyond that, his bolt thrower was terrible. He was probably the best player on my team, and it really worked out for me that his bolt thrower really didn't do anything. In the combat portion of the turn, he did do a significant amount of damage to my Revenants, but where they're unwaverable, which is a beautiful thing about the Undead, I might add, he didn't do enough wounds that even rolling boxcars would take them out. And so basically, his Drakon Riders flew up and just bounced off of my Revenants, which is understandable with how good a unit they are. But that was basically the Elf turn 2. So at the end of the Elf turn, we had a bunch of movement over here that kind of moves them up into the it's about to get bloody over here kind of thing. We had the archers move back here, and they tried to pepper a few more shots into the zombies. They kind of shrugged it off. Over here, they inflicted 10 wounds on my Revenants, which worked out nicely, because they can't waver them even, and they're fearless and all that, so that's wonderful. Over here, he managed to inflict 7 wounds on my dragon, putting her up to 8. We'll see how that goes next turn for them. Should be interesting. Okay, so the first thing I do is I fly over his dragon and flank his archers. Then I move over to my zombies and I rotate them so that they're in position when surging comes around, that I can surge into the side of his Drakon Riders. Now the interesting thing is this obviously means we're not using the Clash of Kings pack like we will be in the tournament, as my dragon would not have been able to do that if we were using the Clash of Kings rule pack. But since we forgot about it until it was well past that, we just decided that we weren't going to use it, and that was the first time that such a thing actually came up. Apart from that, I moved my whites up into positions that I might be able to surge them into the Spearmen. That was my original goal. It was a risky one, and boy did it pay dividends, but it almost didn't work out. Apart from that, thankfully Dave reminded me to countercharge with my Revenant infantry into his Drakon Riders, or else I would have forgotten about that and I didn't have enough necromancers over there to be able to accomplish that, surging both them and the zombies into the side of them. Okay, so moving on into the shooting phase, I have a miraculous phase again, and both of my Balefires are able to land shots on his Spearmen. This is huge as it inflicts, I think, 9 wounds into them, and this really goes a long way. My archers, again, they don't really accomplish that much. I also charged his Palace Guard with my Revenants in the movement phase. I forgot to mention that. And then for the remainder of it, I was able, by some luck, of course I might add on that Necromancer, on the Lich King rather, the Grimoire of Darkness, which gives me an extra 4 dice to my Surge roll, which made it possible for my whites to make it just barely into charging his Spearmen. And that turns out to be a really, really big thing in the combat phase. So, in the combat phase, my dragon devours yet another unit of archers and then turns its sight on the rest of the elven right flank and moves forward a measly 2 inches, basically. From that point, we go on over to the Drakon Riders, and holy crud is that a lot of dice. When you flank with a legion of zombies, that's 80 dice, which is a lot, and I don't think human hands were meant to hold that much dice at one time, so we have to take it in waves, obviously. They have a pretty average amount of hits on this one, but as you can see, it takes a long time to get through it all, which is fine. It turns out in this combat to be pretty pivotal in that I'm able to waver the Drakon Riders, which pretty much incapacitates them for the next turn, which is pretty key. It does quite a bit of damage and allows me to finish off the Drakon Riders in the next Undead phase, the next Undead turn after this one. Now moving over here, we have this absolutely pivotal, my right flank crashing into his left flank, and it's just brutal. The whites, in conjunction with the Balefire catapults, combine, and they just lay waste to those poor spearmen over there, and they're able to drive a horde off of there in one turn. Now the whites, I have to say, are some of the most underappreciated units, in my opinion, because they may be slow, and they may be only hitting on 4+, but that crushing strength 3, man, that just kicks trash. So between the two of them, they're able to completely wipe out that horde of spearmen, which is huge, and basically takes out his left flank. Then to add injury to insult, or insult to injury, or whichever way you want to take it, or just injury to injury, I'm able to take out the Palace Guard behind them, which totally removes any and all elves from my right flank. That was actually a pretty mean...
My whole left flank just...
Yeah, his left flank just buckled. We did really well. We got some really good rolls in there. Just wow. Hey, I'll take it. We killed the unit of archers over there with my dragon. We killed the horde of spearmen over here, which I was totally not expecting.
No.
That was a welcome surprise for me.
And I took out his Palace Guard, which I was about half and half. That actually turned out to be the closer one, though.
Yeah.
I was surprised. That was when I was kind of thinking that it was probably going to happen. Over here, we managed to waver the Drakon Riders with a surge charge in there that was typical undead shenanigans kind of thing.
Which was expected.
Which was expected, yes. And then over here again, like I said, I jumped over his dragon, landed over there, and took out the archers. Yeah, that's the bottom of Undead turn 3.
Okay, so in this turn, the very first thing he does is he charges the flank of my zombies with his Palace Guard, and we tried to determine whether or not he could get his cavalry into the rear of my zombies. We determined that there wasn't enough room, so he wasn't able to do that. So instead, you see, he moves his elf dragon behind my undead one. Unfortunately, he was facing away from my undead dragon, so he couldn't charge him. So he moved him up to try and use his breath attack on him. And instead of marching his cavalry into the rear of my zombies, he moves them up to try and shoot my dragon. And that just doesn't go the way that he wants it to. On his left flank, he moves his mage up to try and zap my revenants with them, with his lightning bolt, and totally whiffs it. Doesn't get him. And that really, it just insult to injury again. The name of this whole game. On top of that, he pumps so many shots into my undead dragon, and he inflicts, I think, 1 wound on her. And when he rolls his dice to waver, because she's not officially undead, she's conscious, so she can be wavered, he misses by 1. So she doesn't get wavered. She's fine. She's able to fly around the next turn. His Palace Guard aren't able to do that much to my zombies. He's able to inflict a few wounds and pick them away, which does come back in the end of the game to make it a little bit better for him, but not enough to drive them off the board this turn. On top of that, the only other thing that he's got is his Bolt Thrower manages to wound my ghouls that we've pretty much forgotten in the back corner, but they don't care.
At the end of the elf turn and the whole game turn 3, there was no damage.
Call it what it is. It's very lackluster.
It was lackluster.
Everything missed by about 1.
Yeah, literally everything missed, because with Undead, unfortunately, you can't waver them. Everything literally missed by 1 point, usually. Yeah, nothing's gone yet. It was really funny because even the ghouls stuck around because they evidently find this very funny. And I agree with them in some ways. I'm a horrible person. The dance of dragons over here keeps going on. My dragon just refuses to be wavered or be scared by the fact that there's a dragon literally breathing down her neck. But hey, I'm okay with this. Anyway, that's the end of turn 3. We're moving now to turn 4.
The dead are coming for the elves. So this is actually a pretty simplified movement phase. The only really tricky thing that I do is first I countercharge again, or rather I charge my zombies and my revenants once again into his Drakon Riders. Then I move my dragon to safety so that she's not in anybody's charge arc, and because I knew she wouldn't be able to survive a round of combat with his dragon. So I got her out of there. Then the only really big thing that I'm able to do is I'm able to charge my whites into the rear of his Silver Breeze cavalry. Then once I'm done with my whites, I'm able to turn my Revenant cavalry to the side to get them into position so that in the shooting phase I'm able to surge them into the Elven Mage that's left there on the side. The rest of the turn goes pretty much how you'd expect it. I popped the Drakon Riders because they basically needed Snake Eyes in order not to die. So we quickly simplified that and just rolled Snake Eyes, rolled their nerve test right from the get-go because we knew that they weren't going to be able to magically pass that. So they're gone. My whites run into the back of the Silver Beast Cavalry, triple their attacks with Crushing Strength 3. It's the same thing, and the Revenant Cavalry don't have a hindered charge when they charge into the Elven Mage, and really all three combats are pretty well massacres because just positioning and the fact that I had so many dice going after each of them, and things were just not going well for Dave and his elves. So here you see us moving gradually through this massacre. There go the Drakon Riders off the board, and there was much jubilation throughout the land. At least there would be if, Undead could feel jubilation. I repositioned them so that they're ready to take on the Palace Guard, and the Revenants move into position to claim another objective back there.
So at the end of this, the wizard is dead, the cavalry archers are dead, the Drakon riders are dead, and I think that was it, right? Yeah, that was it. The elf players have left a bolt thrower, a dragon, and palace guard, which are in a very bad spot. They may be able to pull it off, though. They could still pull it off.
Your zombies are weak enough, I might be able to.
You might be able to get that. Maybe. If you do... Let's see, that's 7... 8, that's 8, 15. If you do 10 attacks and you do all 10, you'll be 3s to wound them. But you'll probably do more like 6. Yeah, you could probably take out my zombies. I don't think that's an issue.
There's pretty much two things that happen in this turn for the elves, and they're pretty big moral victories at the very least for the elves, and unfortunately they are the first two undead casualties, and that's pretty indicative about how the elves' luck has been in this battle. But he's able to take out both my zombies and my whites. Now the zombies, I half expected that to happen. It was a pretty good chance that it was going to happen, and he's able to push through them and pop them. The whites, on the other hand, I was expecting to get at least one round of combat out from them, but it's a pretty big testament to how powerful this dragon character is, that he's able to take it, because the whites are completely fresh. They haven't taken a wound yet, and he's able to take them out in one frontal charge, which is saying something for the dragon's killing power. Apart from that, his bolt thrower does its own thing again, and again, best player on my team misses everything in its path. But otherwise, a pretty good elf turn for him.
End of elf turn, they managed to kill all the zombies.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is why you do not count yourself out until the end.
The very end.
Done.
Until the end of turn 6 or 7, as the case may be, you don't ever stop playing. Don't ever give up. It's not like Warhammer, where at this point there would be no way for him to win. At this point, he still has a very real opportunity to at least tie, and if he really pulled out some serious shenanigans,
rolls, I could win. But
he could win.
This ain't going to happen, so we're just going for a tie.
It probably will not happen, but, there's always that chance. So, we're going to see what we've got here.
Coming up on the final parts of the battle, and as we do so, I start getting ready for that, as you'll see in this. I pull some pretty typical undead shenanigans, working it out the best way that I can, figure out how to do so in order to get my revenants up into the position that I want them to be in, which is flanking the palace guard, because why throw 25 dice when you can throw 50, right? So I move them up and pivot them so that they're in the palace guard's flank. And then I move my undead dragon up, my zombie dragon up, so that if he's foolish enough to keep his dragon where it is, I'll be in its flank and be able to charge it next turn. After that, I go about making sure that, because I know I have the right flank, and really it would be a waste of his time to try and come and take care of that right flank, so I begin moving things into position so that they're claiming objectives, so I don't get excited in the next turn and forget about it. I can't tell you how embarrassing it is when you really get into a game and you forget to move things up onto objectives. It's happened to me a couple of times, and it's just, it's sad when you lose because you're too stupid to move your zombies up when you should. So I'm able to make the surge into the Palace Guard's flank. It goes about how you'd expect it. 50 shots into them, more than enough to send them on their way. I did try shooting my breath weapon into the dragon to absolutely zero effect, so that was unsurprising. That was expected, especially since the breath weapon doesn't minus any to their defense, which makes it kind of useless against such a highly armored object. Again, there we have the revenants beating into the Palace Guard. Lots and lots of dice being thrown about, and it ends exactly how you'd want. So that's Undead turn 5. Alright, the end of Undead turn 5, possibly leading into the last turn. Palace Guard are dead after a flank charge from the revenants. We have nothing going into that dragon despite 10 blasts, but that's not unexpected. We have 2 points collected here, and you actually don't even have a way of claiming points at this point. But
all I can do is contest.
Yep. So, alright. Moving into the last one, we still have a dragon, and way over here in the hidden thing, a bolt thrower.
It has done like 2 wounds on me.
On the dragon. Oh, no. It did 2 wounds on the ghouls.
Oh, it did do 1 wound the first round on the dragon.
This is true. And
so
she
it's
has
up to 3 wounds total.
Does it count if the dragon just gets them back?
For my somatics, yes.
So with only 2 units, this is a pretty quick elf turn. Basically, he charges my revenants with his dragon, and then he shoots my ghouls in an attempt to get rid of them so they can't claim that objective over there. He causes 1 wound on the ghouls, which they just laugh off and eat the corpse because it's a good snack for him. With the revenants, he only manages to accomplish 2 wounds on them, which is really sad after having just devoured the whites. So, pretty pitiful elf turn. We'll just do a recap on here. Yeah.
Another elf, nothing.
Wow! 3 wounds cumulative of the entire round. 2 there, 1 there from that. I gotta give hands off to your bolt thrower. He has been one of the best players on my team.
I was gonna say he's a better player on your team than on any other team.
The MVPs go to all the artillery in this game. Thank you.
For your side.
And yours. Because
no, for your side.
For my side, yes. All right.
I'll put some skeletons there. That's the problem. I got the guys back here to market. They're not manning it very well.
And this is the potential last turn of the game, and we're really interested to see how this turns out. So with his dragon already out of my charge arc of my dragon, I decided it's probably a better idea to go after the bolt thrower, and so I fly my dragon over there, and because it wasn't able to charge, it just breathes its breath weapon into it, which is more than sufficient to rout the bolt thrower, leaving only the elf dragon, which takes quite a few hits from the revenants, but because it practically hasn't been touched the whole battle, they're unable to rout or even waver the dragon. So it comes down to it that the elves are left with 1 model, and that is their elf dragon, with everything else being taken off the board. Turn 6 for the undead. The only thing left is the elven dragon. Pretty simple elf turn. He looks to see if he could charge the ghouls. They're out of his front arc, so he just goes after the revenants in an attempt to get rid of them. He charges in there, does a few wounds, but it's still not enough to rout them. So at the end of this, we're pretty much the same position. Alright, let's see if it ends. On a 1, 2, 3, it does not end. Or it ends, yes. On a 4, 5, or 6, we go another round.
Yes, we go another round?
Yep. That was really confusing. He rolled a 4, so I was caught up in that, and so, yes, we win another round if you couldn't guess. So I charge in with my revenants to try and finish off his dragon. I move my dragon up in there for kicks and giggles, just for moral support. I try to get off a Bane Chant. Unfortunately, it doesn't go off, and that ends up costing me, as I only do like 3 wounds, which isn't enough to give me the boost I need in order to rout the dragon. So at the end of the turn, the dragon is still left on the board, board, and I am left without being able to table him.
Do your whole spiel.
That's it.
So in an epic finale, the dragon charges into my revenants and rips them to shreds and routes them off the board, which in the end actually ends up giving him an extra victory point because that's 200 points which he kills, which puts him over the 400 point mark that he needed to get the point, so it wasn't a complete shutout, which is a good thing for him. Very much so a victory for Undead, but let's just take a look at how much.
Not as big as you would think.
It's a pretty good one, but yeah, you're right. It isn't as much. So, we've got 1 point here. They control 2 points completely, and a third point. This one is not controlled, and that one is not controlled by anyone. That puts the Undead with 6 points to 0, but then we take in kill points. That guy's worth how many points? 310. So that means on top of the 6 points for the points for Undead, Undead come out with 10 points. You killed 200, 550. You gained 1 point for killing. Yep, that's with the zombies too. Because the zombies are unfortunately a very cheap tar pit. But
they are very good at their job.
They are very good. I cannot find a unit out there that does a better job than that. Alright, well, we're going to do a recap really quick. We're going to just go over a little bit of the battle and then we'll wrap things up. That
was interesting.
Really well.
Interesting to say the least.
Yes.
Anybody wants free dice, let me know.
Free dice? He'll even pay for shipping. Wow, that was... I don't think I've ever... Well, there was the other time that I did really well against you, but that was because we didn't quite understand the rules.
I was in Undead, and it was... Yeah,
and
it was like our second game or something like that.
Yeah, that's the last time that something like that happened. This is the first time that is legitimate, and I love that I have it on camera.
And mind you, when it happens in reverse, it won't be on film, I'm sure.
I'll make sure that it disappears. Just
I'm sure.
Oh, come on, I'm not that sore. So some things that really went well for me that I mean, apart from the fact that your dice hated you. They really did, and my dice were on fire. There was a lot of really good luck on my side and some pretty below average luck on your side. I want to thank your bolt thrower, because man,
he's taken out
second best player on my team.
Good thing I've got 5 others, so I can swap him out.
You can go crush him if he does it again.
Melt him. Use the old pewter model.
You can use him to mold a different one if you can. The thing that really got me is actually my balefire catapults. Those 3 hits right
off the first.
Right off the first, and that first, and then that second turn even. Yeah. That totally changed the.
That first turn was.
That taking out your cavalry, because I totally didn't expect I expected my revenant cavalry, my guys on the right flank, just.
They should have been there.
And they should have been.
If you wouldn't have hit me with that balefire. Such a well roll there, they would have.
And that's the thing with artillery and shooting in general in Kings of War, I've noticed, is that it's
either my or his Bellfire or my bolt thrower. You got both ends of the spectrum, and they don't seem to. At least for me and him, it don't seem to.
There's never seems
to
be a
ground.
It's always
either they suck or they're great.
They either turn the tide of the whole battle, like in this case, or they suck and they are a total point sink.
Yep.
And 200 points, and I'm thinking of adding a third one, so 300 points is quite a point sink just for something that doesn't do anything. So it's a gamble to take your artillery, and on top of that, the next thing is my whites coming up and just crushing through that horde of spearmen. I was not expecting that. Of course, again, that came back to that balefire crushing it in there that second turn.
Yep.
That
it sure didn't hurt any, that's for sure.
No, that didn't hurt at all. And then my whites coming up there and just mowing through those spearmen. That crumpled your left flank.
My whole left flank was gone after that. There was no recovering.
Yeah, at that point it was a matter of
2 troops against control. A few things. All I could do was hope for good flanks, which I did get a good flank in, and I softened them zombies up pretty good with my tiles.
Yeah, you did.
And that's what got you your
That's finally got me back.
But yeah.
A few points anyway.
This is also why you would want to come and play on Friday nights, so that you could switch out your Friday night game for this one.
Yep. Yep.
Because
most definitely.
That's going to be a big thing, and boy, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it probably was more fun for me than it was for you, but I had a blast. I don't know about you.
Paybacks are sweet.
They are.
Like I was telling him earlier, it's just for going undefeated on the campaign day. It's
yeah,
karma.
Yeah, this is true. Of course, we were on the same side on campaign day, so yeah, I don't know how karma came back for me, but
for me, because I went undefeated. You lost.
How did I lose? I was a good guy with you.
I don't know, but you lost the game. I didn't
oh,
lose
that's
the game.
true. Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah, that was the International Campaign Day. Lots of fun. They're
actually. You get a chance. Let's do another, or they need to. Or when they do another one, you need to be involved. They're a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, they're talking about doing one in December or January. They haven't really nailed down exactly when they want to do that, but they're going to be doing another one here in a couple of months. If you have any desire to play on that, it is a blast. It's a day of gaming. You play about 5 or 6 games depending on what they decide. It's great fun. If you have time for doing that, be watching. Go join some Facebook pages like Kings of War Fanatics or something along those lines.
Or the one we're on.
Yeah, that's true. On ours, we're the Game Pulse Mantic Gaming Group. I always try to keep everybody updated on it. I'm a Pathfinder. Dave knows more about game stuff.
I should be a Pathfinder, but I don't have time.
This is true. And so if you have any questions, let us know. Again, look us up, Game Pulse Mantic Gaming Group, or look us up on the website for the event at refugeesoftheoldworld.com. And remember, put an extra E after old and world, because I was trying to be fancy, and that's probably making my search engine optimization terrible.
That's what you get for being an English major.
That's true. Well, an English teacher now. But yeah, this was a good game. So what do you think you could have done a bit, or what do you think you could have gone differently for you if
I want to say I could have been more aggressive, got up there quicker.
Yeah.
But the way I was rolling, I don't know if that had helped. I was trying to hold I did not expect the ghosts, the Sigmarines, to kill my horde that quick.
Yeah, no,
That did not, that took me by surprise.
That did. That was surprising.
I should have probably got them into combat more. And basically, I wasted not only that points, the points I got for magic item on there. I probably ought to drop a lot of the magic items and add more units, just to get more things to get into combat. My Drakon Riders, I took a gamble and lost horribly.
Yeah, and that's true. That one does. You crushed into one of my damaged sponges, and it doesn't. I don't think it matters that the fact that the zombies can't hit for nothing, and they're terrible.
When you're throwing 80 attacks at something, you're gonna roll a few 5s, and you're gonna roll a few 6s. You're just going to.
And you can't. No matter how weak something is, you can't ignore your flanks at all. And
I was expecting that to break the redness, and I just couldn't roll good enough to do it.
Yeah. You came close. I think you're like 4 or 5 away though.
Yeah,
something like that. And so that's another thing.
If I'd remembered my vicious, that's the other thing. If you got magic items, make sure you remember what they do and what they're there for, because if you forget about them, that might have changed that whole outcome.
Yeah.
It might have, but
I
forgot it, so.
And here's the thing, and I think we should make this a club rule, is that if you forget to do it and it goes past, because you have that compulsory thing, if you forget to do it, you go past, you just assume that you rolled all ones, if that's what you're looking for, kind of thing. Because there is that rule that they're starting to go around now, that if something is compulsory, such as regen rolls or things like that, and you forget to do them and you move past that phase, I would just say that you just assume that you rolled all ones, and that way.
That's kind of what we do anyway.
That's basically what we do.
I forgot it, my fault.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. Now, again, being gracious, there's ways that you can
well, that was the other thing. I probably ought to not be so nice and remind him of things that.
Don't listen to him. Be good players. We want a good community, a happy community. Yeah, there were a couple of times that you reminded me of some things that I would have been game changing had I not remembered them. And because of that, if I was playing in the tournament, I would gladly have nominated you as a player's choice for that reason.
That's not what this is about, by the way.
No, it's not. We're not about that, but being that kind of player, there is something to be said. I would much rather play against someone like that
than somebody that flips their table or
throws dice
or starts moving because they're losing now because they forgot something or
Just
a force sport.
Yeah,
just plain and simple.
Just remember, it's a game. You're gonna have another chance another time, and there's really no reason to complain about. I mean, it sucks sometimes, and but
everybody's gonna lose. Yeah. My case in point, I just lost horribly.
And I think it's the worst I've ever seen you lose. Something.
I was not tabled. That is the key point. I was not tabled.
Close. If I'd have gotten that Bane chant off, it would have been sweeter, but I didn't. All right. Well, is there anything you can think of you want to add to this battle report before we close it up?
Not that I can think of. I think we covered everything. Come and join us. Come play.
Yeah, please
come
out. We are always looking for new players. If you live in the southeast Idaho region, come on out and play with us. If you happen to be traveling through it, which I don't know why you would be. Unless
there's lots of college kids. Maybe they got family.
True.
I don't know.
I guess if you got kids in school or something like that, and you happen to be coming through, check us out at Game Pulse. That's our store, or Game Pulse Manatee Gaming Group. We usually post a lot of pictures, and
if you are from another store and you want to get a game in, message us on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or through that. We'll try to set up a time and come down and play.
Yep. We'd love
or a demo or anything.
We'd love to play. We love playing this game. It's a fun game. It's something that we enjoy doing. It's a good social event. And
it's a solid game. There's not a lot of stupid, overpowered things that auto win. Yeah. It's well balanced.
It's a well balanced game. Very rarely will you see something like that. But when it does, it makes it so much sweeter.
And that's a culmination of bad decisions and really bad rolling.
Really bad. All right. Well, again, one more time, I'm going to plug the tournament. It's called Refugees of the Old World. Again, look us up on Facebook. Look us up on Google. We have a website, refugeesoftheoldworld.com. If you want to come out and play, this is going to be a blast. We're going to have tons of prizes, and not just
for the top. Like $900.
Oh, we're clearing $1,000 worth of pricing. $1,000,
and it's not all Mantic. It's all a bunch of different places.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is Mantic, because they've been supporting a lot of stuff. But just the entry fee alone, you'll get that back in your grab bag. And on top of that, everybody's going to walk away with at least a $30 prize. And
it's $30 to enter.
Yeah.
Basically, you're paying nothing to come have fun, and you're walking away with as much as you're getting putting into it, or more.
And so it's going to be a blast. Come on out. It's a 2-day event in October 21st and 22nd. So come on out, have fun with us. Even before then, we're a relatively fun guy. He's kind of a curmudgeon-y, but I'm a fun guy.
That's why everybody wants to play with me and not me.
I just, we'll get into that another. I don't have a good comeback is what that really means. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You the real MVP. You the real MVP.